damn, bro, I need a knee replacement.
That's how you're gonna start the pod. You need a knee replacement.
That's how it feels, bro. It's that time.
Bro, I've told you, man. You got to take it easy, bro. We're not young and nimble. We're not in high school no more.
I still feel like I still can go out there and shoot the J. I feel like I can still do these things. Just move, how homes, do all these things, but my body's saying no, bro.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I can still do stuff. It's just
right.
I can't do stuff as long as I used to anymore. Like if I play flag football, I got one deep route in me. You know what I mean? Like I got one good deep route in me. The rest of them are button hooks and slants and bubbles, bro. That's it. That's all you're getting from me. And I might make a couple people miss here and there. You know what I mean? But as far as me like going all out sprinting, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. You're going to get 80, 85 of top speed because I don't want to pull nothing.
That's about right.
I can't afford to go out there and pull something. You know what I mean? I got a kid at home I got to chase. You know, I don't got time for that. I ain't got time to be out here pulling hammies. You know,
do a big blitz and everything else. Like, yeah, I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'm not going this play.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not actually blitzing. I'm always bluffing. I'm always bluffing. If you see me running up to the line of scrimmage, just know that I'm full of shit. I'm not actually coming for the quarterback. Well, welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of the New Block Nerds podcast. I'm your host, Chris, aka Prince, with the homie Duran, aka Medic Grizzly. Duran, how we feeling today, bro?
Like old men, but I feel good, bro.
We're aging like fine wine, my friend. That's all.
No doubt.
That's all it is. We just get better with age. But anyways, Duran, I wanted to chat with you today, man, because we've got a very, very highly anticipated show dropping on Disney Plus very, 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 very soon. It is Marvel's Secret Invasion. It's something that you and I have been looking forward to for a very long time. We've talked about it here and there on the pod. It drops this week. It drops in June sometime. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to have an opportunity to talk with you and just go over a brief preview. I know we've talked a little bit about the comics and how in the comics it kind of leads to the Dark Reign era and Thunderbolts. So with Thunderbolts coming up, I really feel like they're dropping this at a really perfect time in the MCU, where, you know, a lot of the Avengers are dispersed, like we've talked about before in previous pods. And, you know, we have a new CIA director. She's got some nefarious goals, obviously. So it's Secret Invasion, like the plot of Secret Invasion in the comics actually is kind of a perfect fit for what's happening in the MCU right now. So I want to throw it to you first, just like, you know, the latest trailer that's come out. It's a more, you know, Earth-based, grounded story here. And it's not going to be a whole lot of Avengers throwing hammers and shields and power-ups and stuff like that. So
definitely, I think is needed. It really gives me like the Winter Soldier vibes, like back in the essence of what we really loved and cared. And also reminds you why everyone needs Nick Fury. For a long time, you forget how important Nick Fury is because you have Iron Man, you have the Hulks, Captain America, you have everyone as superheroes. So now how you mentioned Thunderbolt Ross and the future Captain America 4 film, he's labeled as the president. So we're going to see something happen where he becomes the president, what leads into an entire new universe of what we're going to get. Because you know with Thunderbolt Ross, the Thunderbolts, Red Hulk family, you don't know what you're going to get out of that. So having just like bits and pieces leading towards that and showing the political, just be mayhem, bro. Like you don't know who's really who. You don't know this whole time how many movies. We can go back to Samuel Jackson and Nick Fury about whole cutting the sandwiches about corners versus what he said he's not does with bread. Like, were you even there? Like, we don't know. And this is the only cool part. So I hope that also we got to represent Captain Marvel now in the movie, the film. I know a lot of people hated it. I thought it was actually decent, but you almost have to watch that to know what is going on moving forward. If you didn't watch that, you don't know what's happening.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think, you know, and that's the part that intrigues me so much about this series is in the comics, it was revealed that a lot of our Avengers that we know and love were not actually the real people. They were Skrulls in hiding, right? So I'm very interested to see who they're going to make secret Skrulls, right? And now, like, as like the trailers have been coming out, and like as we get closer and closer to its premiere, I've been kind of like thinking to myself, like looking at past movies, like, like what doesn't add up? Who is has there been anyone that's been acting strange lately? Is there anyone that like seems a little out of place? Like, do you have any predictions on, like, before we get into like the meat and potatoes of like the actual comic book story? Do you have any predictions on who do you think is going to be a fake Skrull or not?
Well, we already know about Hill. We already know about Samuel. Like, that wasn't there. Nick Fury wasn't there the whole time. War Machine, maybe.
That was my first thought,
because he was crippled in one movie. I've seen he's walking next, and in the trailers look like he's a political figure now. But you never know with Tony's nanotechnology what happened. If I were to take a wild guess, dang, that's tough. I got a dark horse. So over that.
Okay, go ahead.
I feel like Steve Rogers is going to be in this film, bro. I feel like the world does not really know. I feel like the world, like, they're not going to accept a Falcon, right? They already haven't accepted him, and no one really knows what really happened to Cap. They try to replace him and the actual TV show and everything else, but like, I feel like the Skrulls going to pop up with that. I'm just saying, that's my dark horse. Everything else kind of seems kind of obvious, but that one, I feel like he's going to pop up in some kind of, like, maybe a cameo. I don't know, but he's going to pop up in this film. That's what my desire.
That's a pretty good theory, though, because considering where they left him at Endgame, where he went back in time and then he came back as an old man, so he has an entirely different timeline than the regular quote unquote Steve Rogers that before Endgame, right? So there is a lot of unaccounted for time where a Skrull could come into play there, right? I do think we are going to get a Nick Fury imposter. It looks like we're going to get Nick Fury's wife. I'm confident that a Skrull is going to impersonate his wife, which I feel like Nick Fury is smart enough to point that out, because I feel like if someone was trying to like impersonate Jay or someone was trying to impersonate Trish, I feel like you and I would be able to be like, wait a minute. Trish would never stop that. It's just like little things like in the Captain Marvel movie when he was talking to Ben Mendelsohn's character and he was like, call me Nick, no one calls me Nicholas. So that was kind of the tell in the movie when one of the Skrulls who was impersonating someone else called him Nicholas, and he was just like, yeah, no one calls me Nicholas. You're clearly an imposter.
Yes.
So it's going to be little stuff like that. I like the part that keeps tripping me out, right, is like it's looking like the guy who's playing like maybe the leader of the Skrulls. I don't know if it's going to be a super Skrull kind of situation. Kingsley Adir, like when Ben Mendelsohn's character kind of like comes over the table and like grabs him by his collar, and then like they all like change, and he's all looking like, oh shit, like, oh damn, what?
Yeah, you messed up, bro.
Oh, what do I do now? But it looks like the Skrulls are committing acts of terrorism around the globe, trying to destabilize different world governments, so that they can then come in and infiltrate. I think a couple of members of the Thunderbolts might be Skrulls as well too. I think like the new CIA director, she could be a candidate for, because think about it, if that's the Skrulls' plan to come in and commit acts of terrorism or in other ways contribute to some kind of political disarray on Earth, right? What better way is there than to usher in a team like the Thunderbolts, right? And I think the fallout of the Sokovia Accord, Civil War, Infinity War, the blip, everything like that, that's going to give someone like Thunderbolt Ross the ammo to say, hey, these superpower beings need to be put in check, and that's what I'm going to run my presidential campaign on. There's going to be a lot of people who are going to empathize with that point of view, right? So I could definitely see, Thunderbolt Ross getting a lot of support from that perspective of like, hey, look, we tried to get them to sign the Sokovia Accord. They signed them and it still didn't work. There was still a bunch of fallout and collateral damage, and half the people on the planet disappeared for 5 years. They came back. society is still in complete disarray. I mean, we saw it in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We saw it in a couple other things where people are still trying to pick up the pieces of like what happened, So
Yes.
I think there's a lot of different angles they can take with this. I think right now, given the state of the world for all the things that I just mentioned, is a perfect place to put Secret Invasion, because it's if you're a Skrull from a Skrull's perspective, there's no better time than to launch this plan than now.
Absolutely. Especially with like it showed how there's division amongst the Skrulls. So everyone says the Kree versus Skrull army, how the war, how everything first started. It's a perfect time for Thunderbolt Ross. This is his game plan. The Avengers are dismantled right now. Nicholas Fury is nowhere to be found. Could they be trying to bring him out of hiding because he has the Tesseract and he has things that they actually want, and this is the way they can do that because eventually Nicholas is going to have to retaliate to this, or like you said, the original plan, which I also believe is going to happen, is so he can input his own team. So he has the power. He actually started it, and he has an actual solution to it, and no one's going to check him for it because there is nobody else there. If Fury's somewhere else and there's no real Avenger, who's the best guy? I'm the president, and I have a team that can handle this. And I control when things happen because I'm the one dictating when it's happening. Now, do I think that's going to get a little above his bridges and you don't know what to do with it later on, which is going to cause chaos, and then having the Thunderbolts have to pick and choose, and then you have the inferior, like, who's a spy, who's not a spy? That's going to be the funny part in seeing what's going to happen, because you see like the nuclear plant and how they said the Skrulls can withstand the nuclear, and how there's so many abandoned nuclear plants all across the world. So there's no way to actually catch them. They have to turn themselves. That's the crazy thing about it. It shows them change to the skin, then it shows them change to the clothes. Like, this thing is down. It also shows in the original Captain Marvel film how they take the brainwaves and actually copy the memories so they can speak on that. And then you saw in the trailer also is a whole room full of like, it looks like cocoons a little bit of people either getting memories or they might be still the actual humans they actually are. How do you beat that? That's a freaking army, dude. There's no way you know that. So you have to have a plan for that. So this is gonna be. I can't wait to see what's happening. I won't be surprised because anybody can get it. Anyone can change it any freaking moment. I'm more excited than I will be surprised.
Yeah, and that's the thing where like I feel like, the Captain Marvel film they kind of changed a little bit of the history from the comic books as far as. I don't want to say good guys and bad guys of the Kree Skrull War, but they definitely made the Kree more of very like nefarious antagonists towards the Skrulls. They made the Skrulls seem very sympathetic in that movie. But on the other hand, I feel like given all the things you just mentioned about like how they can really blend in and infiltrate a society and a planet, I feel like, look, I kind of don't want them around either because they can cause real damage if they can copy your memories, copy your, your cadences, everything about your likeness and completely replace. I mean, imagine if that was something that was real, if it could influence people in our government or governments around the world. Like, they could cause real damage in a matter of weeks, And I also think too, that like Nick he's in a good place to handle this because he's known about the Skrulls since the 90s, right? Yes. And that's one thing Fury always does well. He plays things very close to the chest. Think about all the Avengers movies. He went through all of that knowing that he already knew about the Skrulls and extraterrestrials and people coming from outer space way before we even got Iron Man or Cap or Thor or any of these things. So none of this shit has been a surprise to Fury. Right? None of it's been a surprise to him. He's known about the Skrulls for going on, 30 years now, right? So I do think there's a lot of secrets and a lot of cards up his sleeve that he's holding on to for moments like this, right? I do think him and Ben Mendelsohn's character, they do have an understanding with each other. And I think we're going to see a lot of different factions within the Skrulls where you have more of the benevolent Skrulls like Ben Mendelsohn's character and seemingly Emilia Clarke's character. But then you also have this other guy, Ben Kingsley Adir, who's like, no, we're essentially refugees from our own planets out in the galaxy and we need a new planet. So we're just going to take yours.
And Marvel has a wonderful way of making you feel that films and TV shows that were pointless, that you have to go back and realize, hey, we knew we were doing the whole time. And it makes you think about the Marvel's film that's coming up. We had a podcast about that. We talked about the trailer and how Rambo's going to be in this one and how the Skrulls are the end of the actual last season finale. It just tells you that every part of every film has been leading to this. Yep. And like you said, that Nick Fury already knew about this and how the Avengers were almost like a backup plan in a sense, or like just to like you're like our little buffer right now. So I gotta think about backup plans right now, but I need you guys to take care of little small fish. And man, what do you think is going to happen next? Like, one of the Marvels is X-Men. I'm not saying X-Men will pop up in this. I'm not saying that. But if you're telling me that you have a bunch of Skrulls and they mention how Vibranium has a part of it, and how it's like almost like the smell of the cat had the ability to smell the actual Skrulls and to the difference of them. Mm-hmm. And then you have Ironheart with the ability of locating Vibranium. And what there's a connection to that? What if we find out the government actually gets a hold of Ironheart's actual equipment, and that's how they find out who was really a Skrull, who's not a Skrull? Like, just the overall implications of all that stuff, because we never really understand why Ironheart was pushed this early until films. Now we actually see she had the ability to find out the Vibranium. We see it's like almost like these little games they played the whole time, and I feel like this TV show is going to bring it all clear.
Yeah, and that's a good point you bring up. I hadn't really thought that much about Ironheart, but the machine that she built,
yeah,
and I feel like it was kind of just like a plot device in Black Panther 2, but the ability to detect and track vibranium, that's actually a big fucking deal.
Huge deal.
That's actually a big deal, right?
Yes.
And I feel like if the government and then other governments around the world have already tried to employ that machine, they're obviously going to try and copycat that, right? And when you mix in Skrulls maybe infiltrating said governments,
yes,
there's layers upon layers of things. And we know Ironheart's coming out later this year, so
yep.
And obviously, I mean, the MCU, this has all been a connected big piece.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think there may be some implications for, other things, how it's going to lead into other things going forward. I do think, though, still that the biggest thing this is going to lead into is Thunderbolts, right? Yeah. Because I do think it just like sets up a perfect storm of events where it could give Thunderbolt Ross the window to say, hey, look, shit's crazy. Yes, the Avengers saved us from Thanos, but not before things got pretty bad and pretty irreparably damaged, right? And I think that's going to give him and the new CIA director, because she's already trying to do dirty shit anyway. So that's going to give them both the ammo to say, hey, look, we're going to create our own team and we're going to send them where we think we need to send them, and they're going to do the things that the Avengers can't do. It's kind of like Justice League Dark, right?
Yep.
That's essentially what the Thunderbolts are, right? They're a collection of, they're not all superpower beings, but they're enhanced beings that, the government is going to use, and they kind of toe the line of, good and evil and, protagonist, antagonist. So I think this is going to lead directly into that. And don't forget, we also have like Armor Wars coming up, right? Which, to your point about Ironheart's, detecting vibranium, that's going to be a big deal too, right? Because Armor Wars, what's Armor Wars? It's the race to obtain the best weapons possible. And when you throw the Thunderbolts into all this, and Skrulls infiltrating governments, it's going to get so messy, and I'm so here for it,
bro. This is Marvel. I'm on to your BS. I'm on it. It's not BS. It's freaking magical, dude. Everything you just said is leading up for Captain America 4 to be a masterpiece.
Yeah,
because this is all government stuff. And you need him, and it's grounded government stuff. Yes, the Skrulls there are super Skrulls. I get it. But as far as it actually taking place on the actual soul of Earth, and then having corrupt government inside there, and you have to rebuild the government, and then you have Captain America 4 coming down.
Right. And don't forget, it's called Captain America 4 New World Order.
They know what they're doing, man. They know what they are doing.
They know what they're doing.
And you don't mention Khalil like being in a TV show Marvels. You don't mention that of her being X-Men unless that's in the pipe. Like it's just I'm taking I might be the guy that's like false for everything. Okay, just I'm going to. X-Men's pop up in this series. Somehow I'm gonna have another link to X-Men. It's happening. It's happening.
I don't think it's gonna happen yet.
If you can't tell me, you bring Skrulls down there, everyone's starting to do things, and then you find out that you have another superpower crew down there that's not the Skrulls.
I don't, as much as I would like X-Men to pop up sooner rather than later, I don't, for whatever reason, I think they're holding on to X-Men for some other thing later down the line. I don't think we're going to get X-Men until we're almost through with the Kang saga.
We don't even know what's going to happen anymore. But we don't know.
Assuming everything goes according to plan, I don't think we're going to get X-Men until like Secret Wars.
Bro, you want to know like how
they've given us no indication. The only thing they've said is Miss Marvel, you're a mutant. That's it. And it didn't even say you're a mutant. It said
that was huge.
They said your DNA has a mutation in it or something like that.
The music played in the background. Don't act like it didn't happen.
It happened. I know, but they've given us nothing else. They've given us nothing else.
Maybe I'm overreading this, but even the Skrulls, they really didn't give us anything until now. The first time they were seeing what was Captain Marvel's film, right? Then you've seen little glimpses of that. You saw even go back to Loki when they was getting arrested. There was a Skrull in that actual film. It actually shows it being a Skrull being arrested. Like there's they don't talk about it, but little bits and pieces of Skrulls are popping up.
And you mentioned WandaVision too earlier.
Yo, man. I can't. Yeah, I'm watching the Marvels too. This is just. So I can't wait for the TV show.
They have been sprinkled.
They've been sprinkling it all over. Yes, and like it tells me that everything they have touched is going to be answered in this particular series, and it's going to lead to more films. And I feel like everyone said that Marvel went through a dump. They went through a sleeping phase where like nothing was really important. But I feel like they did the long game, and people didn't even realize it and appreciate the craft of what they were doing. Because if they hit this thing out the park, which I think they will, we owe them an apology. This whole thing about us being a masterpiece, everything else, there was no masterpiece at first. It was a slow walk, brisk walk. Then they started running.
Yeah.
This right here, bro, the trailer, like we haven't had Nick Fury like this in a minute. We haven't. This is Winter Soldier vibe, bro.
Yeah. And that's why I'm so excited about it. Like, I feel like we're getting back to like Nick Fury in his Winter Soldier vibe, and I'm so excited about it. I do think, speaking of predictions for who else could be a Skrull, I do think there could be a twist with Martin Freeman's character.
Okay, what are you thinking?
I don't know. I feel like I'm not going to say that he's been a Skrull the whole time, but I do think we're going to get I do think we might get more than one Martin Freeman character in this series.
Oh,
because if you think about it, right, like that's the guy that like I feel like Fury feels like he can lean on, right? He's got a connection with Wakanda, right? Like that is the perfect person that you would want to, copycat if you're a Skrull, especially when you're talking about like detecting vibranium and all this other kind of stuff. If you're trying to take over the planet, why wouldn't you want to try and get in with someone who has an in with Wakanda? I would.
Yeah, that's true.
And here's the thing. One of these main characters in this series has to be a secret Skrull. They have to be.
But
I don't know.
He's like,
I don't know. And I'm not going to predict Fury because it'll break my heart if Fury's been a Skrull this whole time. I'll lose my mind.
I can see Fury, like, how he's back in the day, he's always had 1,000 copies of him. So if he ever got caught, he would always bounce to be somewhere else, which could also save the Skrulls being a part of that. But it can't be Thor. That Thor's gone. Iron Man's bodied. Cap I think will be Cap. Can't be Black Panther. Maybe Hawkeye, but no one cares. That's not going to really like make me. It's not the Marvels because they were already in it the whole time. I think that also explains why Nick wants the Marvels on his team. Why he went after Rambo because he already had Miss Marvel before. Like he knows something about what's happening and how he needs them to be on one team because they may have the ability and power, the Kree connection to actually fight this battle more than any civilian or American, any human possibly can do.
Right. But, yeah, I was gonna say not to mention Captain Marvel. She has the most knowledge of the Skrulls. Yeah. Who's not named Nick Fury.
So, and that's from like Jump Street from back in the day, from Blockbuster days. So, but who else? It's not gonna be Hulk. So who's left? Doctor Strange? No.
Yeah, I feel like it would be pretty hard to like make an imposter out of the Sorcerer Supreme. That's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, so War Machine's really the only person that's like an obvious pick for him, also being the government. Yeah. Now, it will be really cool. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
When we really fell in love, post credits was Nick Fury going around and making a team. What if this happens again? But it's the new Avengers. Because he realized Thunderbolts are now in charge. They're now the new head honcho. The government is now in shambles again. He has to go make a new team.
That's a good point. And don't forget, the Sokovia Accords are still in effect.
Yeah.
They were never repealed. At least, I don't think there's ever been any indication that it was repealed. It was, the Sokovia Accords got signed, Civil War happened, and then we rolled right into Infinity War and Endgame. So,
do you know the timeline of this?
Like as far as like what year or like how far?
Yeah,
I don't know. What was the last thing to come out chronologically? Guardians.
That's what I gotta look at.
But Guardians was off world anyway. So like, what was before that? That was like on Earth.
Well, I'm just seeing. Yo, Matt, we forgot about What If. What If plays a part in all this too. They mentioned when What If came out that was also sequenced that were going to come out into the actual films and TV shows. So what timeline? I might have to look at. Well, secrets.
Yeah,
I don't know. But I'll venture.
Yeah, no, that's a good point though, because I'm trying to think.
Events will show shortly after recent. So this most recent release was Ant-Man and the Wasp in Quantumania.
Oh, right, Quantumania, yeah.
So, but we also have our theories that when they got back into the civilized world, that they weren't back in the same Earth.
Right, there's a theory there that maybe he's in
because the ice cream, they didn't recognize him. Yeah. So, okay, that explains another Avenger not being a part of the main storyline. It's like it's perfect. It's perfect because now Ant-Man's not a part of it. So say they went to a different Earth, right? That means there's a perfect, like you said, for Thunderbolts to be implemented because there's no one else there. This is a world that's about to be corrupted with terrorism, but no one's there.
That's a good point. Or they're there, but they're just imposters of actual Avengers.
So they can just go ahead and put Thunderbolts in. They show the shiny armor.
Okay, now I'm gonna put my tinfoil on. If that happened to Scott Lang, like let's say that he was displaced in a different universe, and we know that there's been a bunch of multiverse travel.
Yeah.
If the Skrulls have been here since the 90s, they would have been observing everything that's been happening. And if they've been impersonating Avengers, they would be privy to all this information that's coming out as far as, Thanos and the multiverse and all this other kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's also a perfect chance for them to implement themselves and take the role of another Avenger who, like, for example, Scott Lang, if that theory is true, that he's been displaced in another universe, okay, he's gone. I can play the role of Scott Lang Ant-Man. Because he's in a different universe and he doesn't even know it.
That's the only thing about that theory is that's why Captain Marvel showed it. They actually hung her upside down and they were using the power to drain her memories to speak up on that. Now, from the outside in, from the government wise, nobody would know because you would really say very few words. I can't wait for this.
This could get so messy, dude. This could get so messy.
This is setting to be like a epic. Yo, they gotta bring Spidey back for this, yo. They gotta bring everybody back.
Oh, they're definitely gonna bring Spidey back. Like there's no way that they're not gonna bring Spider-Man back in some form of fashion. I don't know if it's gonna be like if they're going to maybe have him make a cameo in like Daredevil Born Again or something like that. But he is firmly back in like the classic Spider-Man role and aesthetic that we love. Like, yeah, he was great running around with the Avengers and everything like that. But with at the end of No Way Home, when Doctor Strange does the spell and everyone forgets who Peter Parker is, or yes, I forget who Peter Parker is. He's back in like the friendly neighborhood, just based in New York City, Spider-Man. And so I do think that we are going to get, not to get off topic, but I do think that we are going to get a little bit of a cameo from him in maybe like Daredevil Born Again, something that is a ground level New York City centric thing that we might see him again in something like that. But there's no way the partnership between Disney and Sony was way too lucrative for them not to just do this again. They'd be silly not to.
I mentioned that because Marvel, this Secret Invasion trailer and TV show is a stepping stone to Civil War 2, in my personal opinion. And the reason why I say mention Spidey and all that stuff is because you're going to have Captain Marvel in the position of where she's going to be at, and then the world's going to be in chaos as it potentially is going to be with the dominoes laying out. And you have new faces coming in there with new energy and the old way versus the new way. Like, this is Marvel. I like you guys.
To piggyback on what you said, since they are creating a new like Dark Avengers team, i.e. the Thunderbolts, there has to be an answer to that. There has to be an antithesis to that team, right? So to your point, the new Avengers, right? That's where they could come in. But I also think too, kind of relating it back to Spider-Man, and again, we're talking implications that are wide ranging, right?
Yes.
Movies ahead, right? But listeners, if you guys are not familiar, in the Secret Invasion comic, there is a Super Skrull. The Super Skrull is, I figured it's killed or it's killed by, or the credit of killing the Super Skrull is claimed by none other than Norman Osborn. And he kind of becomes a de facto leader of the Thunderbolts as a result, because people give him all the credit for killing the Super Skrull, and now he's like the man. I'm not saying they're going to introduce Norman Osborn, but it's there in the material.
Okay, let's go even deeper in this. Like, the impact of what's going to happen is the Thunderbolts, we know are going to come. We know the next movie, Thunderbolt Roar, that's his game plan. With no Avengers around, and let's say Nick Fury and the good guys don't win at the end of this film, or the end of this series, is that when you have to find your dark teams? Is that when you have the Moon Knight, the Blades? Is that why you start making TV shows so people know these characters? Because they will have to pop up, because you can't use the government Avengers type anymore, because that team's already taken place. So that pedestal's going. So you got to find a new team, people that work in the shadows and get stuff done. And is that, like, think about it, like, why would Moon Knight be placed in? Like, what was the point of bringing Moon Knight's TV show? There's certain TV shows that didn't place very well at the moment in the viewer's eyes. We appreciated having the show, but why was it now? It's like
there's always a reason.
Like Eternals, the end credit for Eternals. Why did we even care about that? The timing seemed a little off. You're introducing, that's Blade's voice. You're introducing other characters for a reason. This is multiverse. It's a reason for this, because there is no Avengers. You can't use the government. So what do? We find a different team.
That's, my mind is just spinning now, because I'm just like, okay, obviously Secret Invasion logically leads straight into the events of whatever Thunderbolts is going to be.
Yes.
What is Thunderbolts even going to be about? Like, if this is the Dark Avengers team, who was their foe? Who are they fighting in that movie?
That might be X-Men at the Deadpool 3. Because we didn't mention it. Deadpool 3 is what Wolverine's inside of it. They brought him back. Because they are considered the good old boys. And you also have, like, there's other societies you can make. But it's fans, if y'all are still with us as we're babbling and finding new ideas and going down this rabbit hole of Marvel and comics and this theme and just fandom, I'm just so happy. I'm just so happy.
Yeah, right, I mean, dude, we live in a great time. Like,
yes.
Secret Invasion has been one of my most anticipated Disney Plus shows for a while now. Like, I've been looking forward to this one more than the last several shows that they've put on Disney Plus, just because of all the things we just talked about, right? For the last half hour. I mean, there's so many implications, and I think just it's gonna be like they're pitching it as a political thriller in the same vein that like Winter Soldier was, right? And we're getting Nick Fury in the same atmosphere as he was in Winter Soldier. So like I'm super excited to see what kind of twists and turns. I feel like this is going to be one of those TV series where like you're going to be questioning everything you're seeing because you don't know who's a Skrull and who's not. And that's the best part about this show coming up is we have no idea what the fuck is going on. And halfway through the series, we might think we do, but the person we've been following might have been a Skrull all along. We have no idea. Like, and the fallout of that, obviously leading into Thunderbolts, is going to open up a completely another can of worms that, to your point, Deron, earlier, I don't even think that we've been paying attention to all that well. Because like a lot of people have been talking about even we've talked about after Ant-Man Quantumania came out, we were kind of like, man, is the MCU losing its luster? A show like this is how you get it back.
That we mentioned Zemo. We didn't mention like there's so many other characters that were dropped. They were just dropped in here randomly. We're like, yo, we're excited for it, but like, what were y'all thinking? Like we talk about all the time when writing and creating stories. Like you gotta have an end game to what's happening, but you gotta keep the readers interested in the meantime. And we all as fans, like, yeah, I want it back now. I want the impact, but we forgot about the trail. We forgot the thrill, the race. And maybe I'm being hyped. I don't know, but this might be a classic television program.
Yeah,
that we have to rewatch multiple times. Yeah,
I'm psyched. I'm psyched. Look, listeners, if you guys are still with us, again, don't forget to like and subscribe, share with your friends. If you guys are excited about Secret Invasion as we are, let us know. Please let us know in the comments too if you guys have any theories about who is going to be a Secret Skrull, who has been a Secret Skrull this whole time, and what your predictions are on kind of the fallout of this, and as we kind of lean into the next phase of the MCU. But I'm excited. I'm sure we'll be back to review, to review the season. We're still debating if we're going to do episode by episode, if we're just going to maybe do like a mid-season review, or we'll figure it out. Yeah. But anyways, guys, definitely check back. We'll definitely come back to review this thing. So again, I've been Prince. Deron, it's been a pleasure as always, bro. And
always.
We'll catch you on the next one.
Peace and love.